In this world's economy, most people need 2 jobs to facilitate. So why not? Now you've got 2 employees for the price of 1 when it comes to a business.
Now the question is, did it take that job away from someone else?
Yeah, I'm going to take it regardless. I'm going to take 2 if I didn't even have an agent because I'm crazy. And I did take it away from somebody.
Okay, but if that's true, why are there so many? How come I can go on Fiverr and find so many HubSpot jobs?
This is the Built Happily Podcast, where we dive into building apps, companies, and relationships in the HubSpot ecosystem.
As HubSpot grows, so does the opportunity, and we put you in the room with the people making it all happen.
On today's episode of the Built Hapily Podcast, we have Nico Lafakis, the creator of Hub Helper Harry.
Nico shares the story with us on how he built Hub Helper Harry, why you should be using it as a HubSpot admin, and gives us some pretty deep insight on what he sees coming to the HubSpot universe as it pertains to AI. All of that and more on this episode of the Built Happily Podcast.
We got Nico in the building, Lafakis. Galifianakis, not no.
It's the same. Actually, you could go either way.
But I attribute you, Nico, to the forefront of AI in HubSpot ecosystem.
Hell yeah.
I don't know anybody that was there before. I don't know anybody that was there after. And you left your flag in the dirt with Hub Helper Harry. So, yeah, Nico, welcome to the Built Happily Podcast, man. We're super hyped to talk to you today about all the things, that 2-letter word that has been floating around the universe for quite some time now.
Hold on, Nico, can I just give you your flowers for 1 second, dude? Like, I thought I knew a lot about HubSpot, right? And then I realized how much I didn't know about things like CMS modules and all this stuff until one day I was just like, man, I really need to build some modules. And ChatGPT by itself doesn't seem to really understand a lot of the nuances of this stuff. And then I found out through you somehow, right? Hub Helper Harry. And that was actually like my very first experience with a custom GPT, by the way. Your tool that you built, dude, in the process of using it, and it's for anyone who's unfamiliar with this story, I've talked about it a lot, but I built a bunch of CMS modules on HubSpot just by using Hub Helper Harry to explain it to me and write the code and give me everything I needed. And I just want to make this like clear to everybody. I am not a coder. I am not a coder. I do not write code. I don't know how to write code, right? I understand the basics of HTML and CSS and like what it means. I can't write it for right? I was able to build custom CMS modules in HubSpot just by talking to this bot that Nico created, okay? And I think what you built is probably one of the most like monumental things. It's going to be like one of the most impactful things to HubSpot admins, especially in this age of AI, that if there are things you think you couldn't do in HubSpot, now you can, right? Yeah. The amount that I learned about things like Hubble and like how CMS modules work and like all these other concepts, I wasn't familiar with it just because it was able to explain it to me. Because my favorite thing to do with Hub Helper Harry is be like, tell me how to do this, but explain each step like I'm a 5-year-old, right? And it easily walks me through everything. Dude, the stuff that I was able to build from that is literally reinvigorated a lot of my like love for some of the scarier parts of HubSpot that I've stayed away from because I'm not a coder. And so I just want to say thank you, dude. It is like one of the coolest tools ever. But maybe what we could do is you could explain it in your own words for anyone who doesn't know what Hub Helper Harry is and give us the story there. But obviously, tell us about yourself first, who you are.
Well, man, I guess to start off, I'm just beyond tremendously humbled because I just do stuff is the way that I describe it. But yeah, oddly enough, my background, it's super varied. So I was doing graphic design for the longest time. My degree is actually in 3D arts and animation. So even the career job didn't end up being what the degree was. So for everybody that's out there that's wondering about that, they don't always have to align. I consider marketing to be this sort of like car production process. So I look at graphic design as being the team that sort of builds the outside of the car, makes it look good, and puts all the paperwork and all advertising and everything together for it. And then was doing RevOps for a couple of years and still doing that as well. And that to me is like working on the engine, right? That's the heart of the CRM and how everything functions. And now definitely doing way more with technical solutions and with AI. And to me, that's definitely the electrical systems. It's like tying all of the parts together and making everything work together seamlessly. So that trip has been insane because there's been a lot of jobs in between. There's been a lot of stuff in between. Life happens, but you end up here. And yeah, to Dax's point, I've just wanted since the beginning, and knowing what this technology can do, all I've really been waiting to do is just disrupt as hardcore as possible and to use this technology in the way that it was meant to be used in order to do that. So if you follow this stuff closely enough, one of my favorites, I would say, is Mustafa Suleyman, who works and headed up the team for Pi and now works with Microsoft. And he gave a talk probably 8 months ago and was talking about how what this technology does and the profound aspect that it brings to humanity is that it makes knowledge free for everybody. Mm-hmm. Super high level knowledge free to everyone, right? So to your point, in terms of you can go on and learn about things without necessarily the need for a guide, without necessarily the need for a course, without necessarily the need for a tutor or a teacher. You can have that, right? And being able to do that is really what pushed me to create this in order to satisfy what I kept hearing from people, which when you get into this space, and not just this ecosystem, from what I can see, it's like just the SaaS ecosystem in general. I think that's really where the imposter syndrome started, because to me, it's an entire field that is degreeless.
Yeah.
You don't go to college to learn how to work in SaaS. You just use the platforms. You just work with the people. You just work at the places. So it really sucks because a lot of these places move at lightning pace and they have zero onboarding, or even if they do have onboarding, you have zero time to do it, right? So you're just left out in the wind.
I think the other thing that's interesting too about it is like, I mentioned it when I said, explain it like I'm 5. It's not only is this information there and you can learn about anything you want, you can learn about it in the way that works for you, in a way that you're going to be able to consume it. Obviously, with all like the political stuff going on and people talking about budgeting and this, that, and the other thing, I didn't know what deficit spending was. Right. And I literally had a conversation with ChatGPT, one day I was like, can you explain what deficit spending is to me? Like I am a 5-year-old. Right. And I keep using that example, but like you could just as easily say, explain it to me in a story, explain it to me with different examples and bullet points, or go one by one through this concept or whatever it is. Because sure, information's out there. You can Google search and find things, but it's not necessarily going to be presented in a way that is easy for you to consume and understand the concepts. I think one of the coolest things about all this information being available to people is you can get it explained to you in a way that's going to resonate with you and make sense given the way that you like to learn. And I think that's the kind of more like nuanced, like powerful thing about that is really useful, especially when people like really understand how to prompt and talk to these things differently and becomes more widespread.
Yeah, it's the two-way, man. Everything, the way we talk about it, or the way I talk about it, is everything's an extrapolation to speed. Originally, if I had to do a book report, you got to know the Dewey Decimal System. You got to go look it up. Before that, you had to go there was no library. You had to go to someone that remembered it. And someone wrote it down at their house and they have their own manuscript of it. Then we got Google. Cool. Then we had Google on your computer. You're good. You can find your stuff. You had Bing. You had all the funny search things that we'll throw out. But then you had it in your pocket. Then once you have it in your pocket, now it's pretty much you have the knowledge all the time, everywhere.
Yep.
But now you have a two-way where I can get the knowledge and I can build my own university, right? It's like you used to be able to do that with YouTube. I'm like playlists. I've got college. Like you can get into SaaS by making a bunch of playlists and you're good, right? As long as you've got your hands dirty, you are going to be eligible to get the problems that get thrown at you, because no one's going to know how to solve those problems. They're just going to throw them at you and be like, hey man, piece together your life and try to solve this problem today because we put you in this position. But with AI and the way that you're able to talk and build, like I can build my own language tutor and talk to it and get the actual, to have a this accent or that accent or use this, and they can build my own language model, literally, to talk to me and teach me and keep me ready to hearing different things in different language rather than me clicking Duolingo, right? It's just ridiculous the way that works out. And how to bring that back to where it is, that was not in the HubSpot ecosystem. To me, I don't know if this is fact or not, but I'm going to stamp it as fact. The first interaction with AI in the HubSpot ecosystem was Triple H. period. To the point where it was, I forgot even the original name. Wasn't it HubSpot Helper or HubSpot Harry? And it got shut down.
Yeah, it was HubSpot Harry, but
yeah, they shut that down. Everybody's got their naming story.
Took about 2 weeks. And then it got killed.
Yeah. So Nico, like, I want everyone to know about this tool, and I think you're probably the best one to like really explain it to people. I know everyone's like super obsessed about Breeze these days, right?
Yeah.
But dude, how about Harry is where it's at, from being like totally honest with you?
There's HubSpot, there's Helper Harry. Yo, what's the real talk? There is Triple H code base live in effect right now. Being used by lots of people that was written by Triple H.
I get that. Sure, there's people out there using ChatGPT to do HubSpot stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a bedrock fundamental difference of using just naked ChatGPT versus using Helper Harry to help with your HubSpot stuff. Can you explain the work that went into it and like the benefit of using this custom GPT when you're trying to help assist your HubSpot work versus just using like naked ChatGPT?
Yeah, there's a huge reason. And so the work that went into it is literally the entire knowledge base, the entire API documentation, the entire CSM documentation, and the entire interface documentation. So pretty much every type of documentation you can think of, and then all the deep research, the top 100 knowledge base posts that have been made in the last 6 months that have answered the most pertinent questions. So if you're wondering what $200 worth of deep research is for, it's insanely invaluable. So Harry's also filled with a lot in the last week, a lot of marketing research data that's been done, about 300 pages worth now, almost, and increasing, covering just a wide array of topics. I'll actually post an update to that later. So on top of that, he's also got a lot of the freely available Academy information. So what it is an amalgamation of is knowledge base, API, all of that, plus some stuff from the community where there might be some hardcore answers. And what all of that allows you to do is essentially use HubSpot as the base for everything. So instead of talking to a ChatGPT focused bot and then having to give it the context that you're working in HubSpot, give it the context of the project you're working on, give it the context of how you work with fields and what objects are and what properties belong to objects, you could go to Harry and you could say something like, hey, how's it going? And then say everything there is to know about HubSpot objects and properties for them, right? And he'll tell you, yeah, of course. And then you can say, cool, can you make me a downloadable CSV file of dummy data for contacts and include the most pertinent information that I would need if I was doing like a demo on cross-referencing data for insights.
And it's going to know what that means.
It knows exactly what it means.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's ChatGPT with the context of fully understanding every single weird technical thing about HubSpot that like just ChatGPT isn't going to have such a deep understanding of. And it's coming preloaded with all that information. So it's awesome.
It's like asking a smart person, yo, you're smart. How should I file my taxes this year? They could figure it out, right? They would have to get the contacts. Well, I know what year it is. They have to go and look it up. But you basically ask a tax preparer, how do I fill my taxes? They're like, duh, like here, context,
it's way
experience,
different.
life. What's funny though, my man, is nobody can get quote template stuff right. Nothing. Never gets quote templates. Quote templates in HubSpot are that difficult.
Well, to be honest, it's not like it even has the source material to be able to actually learn it. That's
the problem. There's no source material. But I thought that was always funny, man.
It doesn't exist. It's going to be tough. He only goes, he's only supposed to go to 3 online resources. So he's only supposed to go to the knowledge base, assuming that there's something in the knowledge base he's missing. He'll go to the community and he will go to the documentation.
Yeah. I've been able to, I remember I was having a problem with it and I was able to give it a knowledge, like a recently updated API documentation and be like, look at this article, and based on this, can you restructure what you built and what you showed me? And it literally is like, oh yeah, man, okay. And by that, and then it did something different, right? So like it has the ability to go like ingest new information on the fly when you're prompting it in real time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it still has web access. It has Canvas. It can do data interpretation.
Yeah. And the best part, it's looking at like new API documentation with all the historical context of everything that came before it, right? So it's going to understand it at a much more nuanced level than something else would, right? That's not HubSpot focused. What's your future plans for it? What's like the next big thing you're working on with it? What are you really excited about with all the new AI stuff coming out? And is there like anything immediately like Hubble Harry can benefit from this like big time?
Yeah, because now I can actually talk to him through Agent AI. So there's like Agent AI now has API capability. So there's going to be some really nice back and forth that goes on there where I'm going to try to do it from both ends, but essentially I'm going to give Hub Helper Harry users the ability to leverage agents from Agent AI within Hub Helper Harry. And then I'm going to try to also do it the other way around. So if you're using Agent AI, it can go and try to leverage. I'll be building an external assistant, so it won't be, which is fine because it won't need web access or anything like that. But the difference will be that the agentic workflow version is what I'll label it, will be able to leverage higher end models, basically. So that's the only thing that really sucks about Harry. And I have no problem admitting it.
Don't disparage him. Nothing sucks about Harry. That's my boy.
Yeah, look, he's good. He's good for what he can do.
Like that. Come on. Well, it's because it's his mom. It's his baby.
No, the best part, the craziest part about this is Nico saying, you think that HubSpot Harry is cool? You ain't seen And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? It gets better?
What happened in the back of my mind was like, how can I find $5 million and give it to him so he can just like not have a job and just do this stuff? So he could just be like, yeah, I'm gonna get them rare Funko Pops, and then I'm just gonna do this. Because you're just being like, all right, you thought this was the foundation. Now this is the foundation. And now this is the foundation. Because again, Max, for Event Happily specifically to call it out, Max wanted some cool stuff. He asked you vis-a-vis, like you, we cut your head off and you're talking like Futurama, like you're out. He asked you in a version of you, like a symbiotic version of you, of how to do this. Told him, he did it. It's live. It works. He got better. He improved it. And now he's elevated. And Max has a new foundation for his knowledge and grasping of what's possible because he saw it happen in action. And when people look at this and they go and or screw anybody, I want to look at HubSpot. I wonder if HubSpot's good. We've been using it for 3 months. Are we using it good at all? Click the button. Now they're on a new foundational level so that they can ideally raise the consciousness of everyone and do better for who they're trying to do better for, right? It's been charting these waters, paving the path, building the bridge for people to understand, to not have to do the things that people shouldn't be doing. We as humans just need to be able to set the robots in action and go live our lives or do better for the people around us and bring positivity to the people around us, because then the playing field is level. And that's that.
Thank you. I got to tell you, like, the number one reason that I'm with Harvest is because Dave is every bit as disruptive about this as I am, and every bit as eager about doing it as I am. And yeah, we're absolutely going to be like the number one disruptor in this space. And
I don't see any other HubSpot GPTs. What are you talking about? It's not even disrupting because you first one at the party. You didn't show up in a purple suit. You first one. You're like, well, might as well put some music on over here.
But I thought it was like hilarious just this past year at Inbound when just throwing together the custom for Happily, right? The front end version of that. Yeah.
Nico, I want to get your thoughts on the we were talking about this during the Hub Heroes podcast this morning. There's this, because we did a whole episode on like Breeze and stuff, right? And I think whenever we're having these conversations around AI, there's this whole sector of folks that are, I'm in fear of it coming for my job and replacing my job. And then there's this whole other section of people that are just like, no, it's not meant to replace you. It's meant to enhance and elevate you and make you do more. And like this, like very optimistic looking thing. I'm like, I want to hear from you. What's your honest take on the whole balance between that, right? Because like I totally understand the argument and I believe in the idea of, yes, like this is meant to get you to do your job better, not necessarily replace things that you're doing, right? But then I also look at something like Prospecting Agent and go, what about BDRs coming fresh out of college? Sounds like we're not that many years away from that being not an entry-level position anymore, right? Given the type of work that it's doing.
right? And so there's situations where I agree with like both sides of that argument. And like it probably is going to end up being like a both sides thing, but I want your wisdom on the balance between that and like how you approach that sort of paradox.
So the way that I see it, there's a couple different things that get taken into account. The first is people who are already at their job that may not be using these tools already. You're really at the riskiest, right? You're the riskiest for the third reason, the third thing. Second thing is that if you're at your job and you're using these tools and you're fairly good at your job, you're probably a lot better at it now because of using these tools, and you're going to do well. You're going to do really well. For every field that's been tested where people pick up any type of generative tool and use it to their advantage, they have all seen at minimum 65% increase, both in productivity and just overall knowledge, right? Just a better understanding of what it is that they're working on, better understanding of the context for what they're doing. So you'll be fine. The third thing is that it's going to evolve, right? It's going to evolve from just working with the generative platform to working with an agent. And this agent, what we have now is just agentic workflows. Do not confuse what we have now for what's coming. If you want to see what an agent looks like, go check out Singularity Soothsayers from last week. We did a demo on Operator. And if you want to see something that might scare you out of your job, that's definitely something that could do it.
I want to talk about that after this.
So in watching that, a lot of people, their feedback was like, oh my gosh, this thing is doing my job. I'm watching it do my job. Okay, well, the reason that the first group is worrisome, that the first group says that when they see the third thing, right? And the problem with that is because you're not using the technology, you're not able to augment yourself. Mm-hmm. So what's coming through this year is I'm going to be Nico's. It's going to be Dax's. It's going to be Max's, right? Because even though there's the operators, you need me to operate the operators. I have to direct them, right? So literally everybody who's at your position now, you technically become this manager on a digital scale where you will be in charge of not only yourself, you'll be doing your work, but you'll also have an agent that does work beside you and works with you and does things with you that you'll be directing initially, but over time you'll just be a matter of directing it and it'll understand what it needs to take care of.
The individual will become a team.
Yeah. So that's really where this goes, right? It goes to a point of what people were trying to put together. Well, how does commerce explode based on all of this? If there's going to be such massive job loss, how's there going to be job gain and this, that, and the other? Well, that's the thing is if we're going to have this orchestra of workers, we're always going to have that thing in the back of our minds that if a human didn't verify it, we don't really trust it. So there's always going to be a human operator somewhere in the mix. Even with the driverless cars, there's somebody behind a screen in traffic scenarios that's watching it all. So that's how it's going to work out. Will there be less people overall at a company? I don't know. The way that I see it, this year will likely stay stagnant and increase based on what this year produces, right? So I think through the end of this year, people because you're going to see the agent pickup, right? So one person's going to become 2 or 3, which is going to lessen the need for new hires. Yep. But that also increases the want for what? Solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, new companies, startups.
Also, the thing is, I think
you're going to have an explosion in all directions, really.
And the biggest thing too is we live in this weird vacuum where all of us know too much, not to toot our own horns, but we know too much. We think that we are the ones, we are not a representative of the world let's just take it to the nation. Well, it could be the world scale. We're not a representation of that. Our knowledge is not a representation of everything that's happening in the world. Most companies are like, AI, one day. AI agents, what's that? I've talked to multiple people that own businesses that are like, I haven't gotten into that yet. We don't have they're like a GPT for my tech support so that they can just ask questions that are having to go call some. We haven't gotten to that. No, we don't have any of that. It's not normal. We are not normal. Nico, you're beyond not normal, alien as you are. So there's a long-standing opportunity. Just like I think there's people still nowadays going through a digital transformation, meaning we're getting off of our fax machine. We're getting into the digital world. Like all the people that own businesses and create, like I go buy, if there's a competitor that has a fax machine, I'm going and buying them and I'm going to put a CRM in. I'm going to go take this storage place that uses pen and paper and I'll put a digital system in that they make. These digital transformations are still going on in 2025. An AI agentic transformation, like it's a ways out. The technology is here, but the implementation is a ways out because there still needs to be adoption. People used to have jobs cutting out backgrounds of images. That's all I do. I just cut the backgrounds out of people pictures or whatever. That's all. You don't have to have that anymore. And now
but
also that's
that lasso.
Yeah, hit with the lasso. But now even so, like Photopea and all, they made it so I don't need to have $300 a month. And if I just go on, click the button, I got Photoshop-ish. I got fit editing capabilities, and now I have AI in it where I can say, cut the background out and put fairies and unicorns, please. It just does that, fix it up a little bit, and I'm done. That used to be someone's paid hourly position to do so. Also, horses used to run around and carry people. So I think that there is opportunities for humans to learn the technology, learn how to use a power drill versus a screwdriver, and go take that to other companies and expand their horizons because people move slower than us. We work in this LinkedIn vacuum where all we see is the same people in our same stories saying the same things, spouting the same AI. As soon as you step out of that into the real world, they don't understand the concept of letting robots loose. They're so, it's still a foreign concept.
Yeah, no, I realize that I tell my wife that it's the same way. We live in Dayton, Ohio, and I think the odds that I would find someone else in Dayton, Ohio that I could have this conversation with or have a conversation, whatever. I'm not trying to say anything again. Like I really don't measure this, but to hold a conversation with somebody the same way I would with you guys, I don't know. I think there's maybe like 1%. Maybe 0.5% of the population. I don't know that I'd find more than a handful of people, basically, that would have the interest, let alone want to go into depth about it. And more than likely, they would all be... Actually, no, we do have a really baller university nearby that does AI studies. So I could go to the university, but outside of that, probably not. So I understand what you mean in that regard. And I totally get it because, look, they tried to go AI on mainstream media for a while. And it didn't really work. Like people were just not. Yeah,
they're just like, right? They're like, we'll stop talking about this. It's not even worth. It's not riling people up. It's not polarizing it. It's over their head. They're like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, because it's something that you have to learn, right? And that's so. And that's what gets me like the most is people look at it so in like this intimidating view, and you really have to stop doing that. Like the sooner that you actually I really don't care what any of the other data scientists say. I know they all say the opposite. I don't care because it's the easiest way for you to get used to these platforms, the easiest way to understand how this stuff works. If you just treat it like a person and you just talk to it like it's a person, you will almost immediately understand not only like the usefulness of it, but what you could do, what you could learn, like how you can use it and fold it into your everyday life. There's even for my brother who's a mechanic, was able to show him GPT advanced voice with being able to use camera. And the fact that it can take a screenshot anytime you're asking it a question about something. Yeah, okay, I might not know how to work on cars, but this thing does. Like that's what I tell people nowadays to try to get them to understand it is I don't know, not that I'm going to do it. I don't know nuclear physics, but this thing does. I don't know Python, but this thing does. I don't know how to build apps, but this thing does. I've been over it since before the technology came out. The idea that like, yeah, there's going to be a greater intelligence than us, and you're just going to have to deal with that. I am overtly happy that it's already here because of the fact that I'm no longer barred. That's really how you guys have to think about it is like the amount of times you've had to turn to a coworker to ask them a question, the amount of times you had to go to Google to go look something up. And then you hated it because you had to spend so much time on Google actually looking into it, finding the right link, finding the article, finding the piece of the article that was relevant. It probably took you at least 5 minutes on an average search, right? Where you could just ask any generative model. It doesn't even have to be GPT. It could be Claude, it could be any of these models. And especially Perplexity, if you're doing a search, you get it in half a second, you get exactly the answer that you're looking for with the citations to the pages that it got it from.
And you can follow up with the context. Well, here's my actual thing. That's if you do it. Yeah, it is people, if you're afraid of the tools and you don't want to learn the tools, then you should be scared for your life. You probably already feared for your life anyway, because again, this is what it is.
Speaking of fear for your life, Nico, this is what I want to ask you. So the other day, I hadn't heard of GPT operators until I think, was it
text. Was it like Connor that posted a video in our Slack that was like, hey, here's operator booking plane tickets for me. And I literally just see the thing just like going through a travel site and like booking plane tickets. And then immediately I just went, oh, low level HubSpot implementations are about to get sniped. Right. And my question for you to tie this into the HubSpot universe is like, where do you see operators being used practically within the context of HubSpot usage? Am I overreacting? Oh, the implementation specialist job is gone. Or is the HubSpot admin going to go extinct because you've got this really intelligent thing that can push all the buttons and set a lot of stuff up, right? And already clearly understands the nuances of HubSpot as you've demonstrated as possible, right? Like with operators, what's stopping me from having an operator that has the knowledge of HubSpot Harry for me to say, hey, I need you to go build me these dashboards and set up these pipelines and create a bunch of dummy data, and then it just does it on its own, right? Mm-hmm. Without a human doing that.
Guess what?
Is this a reasonable fear? But
you just said to do it. That's the human. You said, can you go do this thing? I made, because you took concept that somebody told you or sent you an email. Granted, you could get that intercepted, but you were there, and do you trust it?
Hold on. That's true until HubSpot builds a chat prompt for the customer to just say, this is what I want to do. Right.
Do they know what they want to do?
It just does it. No, I understand that.
Okay. So let's go timeline, right? Short term, what happens is what I was talking about before, right? Like operator rolls out to agency first, and it rolls out to AI ready and capable agencies first, and then all the rest of them catch up, who knows, someday. And in an AI, so in that scenario, what's happening is, again, there's 2 Maxes, there's 2 Daxes, there's 2 Nicos, there's 2 Chris's, 2 Georges, right? Everybody just gets doubled. And what it looks like is you able to work on essentially 2 client portals and spin up 2 client portals at the same time instead of 1, right? Or maybe you're a solopreneur. Maybe you're on Profoundly and there's plenty of jobs to take, but there's only one of you. You take one, your agent takes the other.
Rush it.
Yeah.
This is
it's not even like rush it. It's just in this world's economy, most people need 2 jobs to facilitate. So why not? Now you've got 2 employees for the price of 1 when it comes to a business.
Now the question is, did it take that job away from someone else?
Yeah, I'm going to take it regardless. I'm going to take 2 if I didn't even have an agent because I'm crazy. And I did take it away from somebody. But that's the mentality that people can't live on. They can't say, I took anything from somebody.
I'm just playing devil's advocate. That's all.
And I fully understand that. But it's okay. But if that's true, why are there so many? How come I can go on Fiverr and find so many HubSpot jobs?
True. Yeah, why is everybody got that badge hiring? All the time.
Enough to go around.
Yeah. There's so much opportunity and people are just sleepy and scared. But if you just get a sword, you can go out and hunt. And now we're giving you like the Ninja Gaiden where you got the 3 ninjas behind you, like doing the swap. It's gratis. You got the option. You need to have the option.
You know what I think is like a really interesting use case for that is imagine a day where, let's say, I don't know, X amount of years, maybe it's a month in the future, but X amount of years in the future, you open up a HubSpot ticket and it's like customer is complaining XYZ isn't working. And then HubSpot tells you, we recreated the issue and we were successfully able to do it. And here's an example of us doing it with the operator, right? And dude, that's going to be crazy. And we already have screen recorders. We already have operators. We already have things that understand your portals and your customers really well. And like that, it doesn't seem that far off.
Nico, he's thinking
crazy as that sounds.
He's thinking
yeah, that's the thing is to me, that's this year. I know what Dax does, but like to me on an agent. So when I say this year from an admin standpoint, I think it's definitely this year going into the end of the year. HubSpot's about it. They're at the pace that you're talking about, right? So they're not a year behind. They are a year behind in terms of educating people and like getting them onboarded to what's going on, right? Like them talking about like agentic workflows and Breeze and content creation and stuff this past year was just like, all right, cool. I've been talking about this since January, but yeah, sure, that's cool. But it's fine because that's what I learned at Inbound was exactly what Dax was talking about is like how small the percentage was, how small the percentage is of like people who were actually this close to it and like actually keeping up with it. and actually building stuff, right? Like the amount of builders on Agent AI, there are plenty of people on the platform. Not a lot of builders that are like, I don't know, taking stuff too seriously in terms of there's, I don't know, 8 different content engines, right? And I'm sure that they're all special for some particular thing, but it's like when it comes to using different generative models, there needs to be like some distinction as to like why this content creator is better than this content creator is better than this other one, right?
It's just a bunch of to-do lists at that point. They're like, oh, we got to-do list. This to-do list, to-do list. That's the building block of, and that's, again, what HubSpot's doing. What's the building block, the easiest entry point, lowest barrier of entry of AI? I could take your video transcript and turn it into a blog. That's like that's the AI bum on the corner. Yo, will convert content for tokens.
So that's a perfect example, right?
Somebody
y'all got some credits.
But that's the system, right? Like at the end of the day, that's the system that they're going to end up running is like a credit-based system, essentially, that what you'll end up doing is creating like agentic workflows or, agents overall. And that'll end up leading into this sort of network, paid network that you'll just be paying to use agents and getting paid for people to use yours and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're setting the robot in motion. And that's like the key. It reminds me of this, and I'll leave you because we got to wrap it up because we're going to talk for 2 more hours. And this is what people need to hear. Well, these are the select few. There is, I don't know why, I do not know this industry very well, but the rap industry, there is some random video that lives in my mind with free rent of 50 Cent being like, hey man, or somebody asked him like, what happened to Lloyd Banks? And he said, I couldn't support somebody that wouldn't use social media. He said, Pac wouldn't use social media. You think Pac would be on Instagram and you think Biggie would be on TikTok? And he's, yeah, you're thinking of the tool and not the outcome. Support that because obviously you want to build an audience. All we're doing is trying to buy attention. These are the tools to get that at scale. And when you talk about multiplying yourself, which everyone wants to do, there's not enough time in the day. There's not enough hours in the day. And now there are tools that allow you to subtract your human self from that time and time usage. And you could either be afraid that other people are now, or the world is going past you, or things are just as hard and you can't feel like you can escape the race. But now there are tools to do so. You either take them or you don't. You can teach people, right? There's going to be a flood of courses. Well, the courses are already here. I'll pay me $2,000 and I will teach you right? You can lead work through water and people are just making money making those maps, man. And Nico, you're not making money making maps. You're building bridges for the good of the humanity. And we appreciate you for it. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions that we do everybody.
Fire away.
The first question is favorite cartoon or animated character?
Batman, the animated series.
Man, that was dramatic back in the day. Second is favorite AI tool.
That's like favorite kid. How are you going to do this one, man? That's crazy.
Because I did it. You heard me. Because I'm going to secretly go look it up.
Man, it's only because of the flexibility. It's not even, understand, this is not like you know how to use it the most. That applies to a lot of them. This is just, it has the most flexibility. It's like an Android versus Apple thing, ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah. And last one is you got one system on a video game system. You're on a deserted island. No, you're stuck. You got 1 year with one video game system. Damn. What is it?
This is the one that breaks them.
It's the classic Nintendo Entertainment System and Battletoads.
I was just, you're going to try to spend the whole year beating the speeder bike level?
You got it.
And then messing it up?
No, actually, not only can I beat the speeder bike level, I can beat it on 2-player with using both hands because my brother couldn't get past it. So yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, if you go in speeder bike level is hard, it's doable. But then the snake level with 2 players because you're like,
there you go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Yep, that's the one.
Well, we should pick the correct system. Nintendo, I would have also accepted Game Boy. I would have also accepted Super Nintendo. But I would have not accepted anything else. But Nico,
PlayStation, Final Fantasy 7.
I don't know, man. Your disc is gonna get messed up. But PlayStation's also like the library. But you got too many discs to hold around. You ever have cartridges?
Stand on a desert island too. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a question, man. We just want to see who the human is behind.
The assumption is that it works perfectly the whole time.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. Been a ridiculous pleasure. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna be bothering you because I'm not the smartest person in the room with this, but I got to at least catch up because you are leagues ahead of the entire industry. So keep doing what you're doing. You built the moat. You built another moat on moat. Hey, you like moats? Because you got moats on your moats. Keep doing what you're doing, man. We appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, guys. And if you want to, if anybody wants to, catch a lesson for an hour, I'll change your life. Discover AI with Nico.com.
Hey,
hell yeah.
Shout it out. He's booking time, y'all.